The server I play on has been up 3 weeks now, has 40 to 80 people playing around the clock, and has brought up a lot of questions, like what's been some of the best skills? How are people managing the different currencies? Are there any tips for surviving version 10? Well, let's check out all that and a lot more right now. So by the time you watch this video, Dad Speed will have been up for 3 weeks. It's been another great launch, and the number of active members has really been impressive. At any time of day or night, I've found 40 to 80 people on round the clock, every day. And at one point on the weekend, the server topped 100 people online playing. This server has players from all over the world, so it's not surprising to see so many people. There's also that addictive factor of eco that has made it really hard to walk away, particularly during the first several days of a server. In this case, it seems to be several weeks. Even with all that activity though, it's still in fairly primitive times, and at the time of this recording, there are no Tier 3 building materials to speak of, advanced smelting just got unlocked, and even though there's a lot of building and people moving around, it still feels like very basic transportation, with a lot of wood carts and steam trucks, canoes, and paddle boats. Town-based currencies have been getting circulated, but this is an area where there has been some difficulties. In the short term, there's been some currency shortages, and they seem to be attributed to 2 factors. One is the ever-popular hoarding of currency by a handful of players, and the other is not having enough open mechanisms to allow any player globally to acquire a given currency. Both of those things together have really pinched down the amount of currency in the players' hands and restricted trade. It's led to the farming of currency from unwary players that were not hoarding, and has led to the draining of some people's accounts and general trade challenges. There are many currencies out there though, and some town governments who implemented distribution methods open to everyone on the server have had less issues. I've run into this distribution issue myself as World Treasurer prior to version 10, and it's a difficult balance between providing a gradual measured release of currency while still providing enough to allow trade and transition from bartered personal currency. But it does resolve itself. Players should realize it's just another one of the natural challenges of the game in this phase where currency is new and freshly released. A little embezzlement was also discovered involving a settlement's currency, so version 10 and having so many different governments all running their own systems has created some bumps in the game's currency. But overall, things are working. Things are running smoothly. Most folks have experienced slow-growing prosperity, and I think those bumps just add to the intrigue and challenge of the game. Environmentally, there's been some interesting things too. There was a mad rush on trees this season. I know there's always been a lot of tree cutting at the beginning of a server, but I've never seen anything like this. At day 3, every tree on a couple entire continents had been cut down. Every single one. It was pretty impressive. All the trees now are ones that have managed to spawn naturally during the clear cutting or were planted by citizens. And even though the premature cutting of planted trees at 50-ish% grown was an issue for a bit, all that has started to stabilize and the tree shortage appears to be over. The jungle was the only place where trees were still plentiful, and until the large canoes were unlocked, it did take a lot of mini transport and moaning happening in the small canoes to move wood and other goods around. In another environmental case, a settlement that was doing a fair bit of smelting adopted an island to be their dumping ground of tailings. There were no claims, and the settlement's influence didn't cover the island. So when another group of players decided to clean the island up and actually place their homesteads and settlement there, it created a huge conflict over who had rights to the land, who was there first, and all that. In the end, the settlement doing the dumping nicely conceded any claim to the island and moved their entire settlement to another continent and set up shop, and they seemed to be doing well. There were some other things driving that move too. The dumpers territory contracted a bug near the 00 world coordinate, but because they had also cut down several old-growth redwoods, the entire server became convinced that Gaia of the eco-world had become angered and cursed the land and its tree-cutting townies. That story has now become pretty much solidified in the server's lore, and it's things like that that just make the game and the community that forms around eco really great. You get these disputes, you generate lore, it just all adds up to a great experience. Skill-wise, everyone on the server has been able to advance, even the fertilizer person. But some players and skills are being more economically prosperous than others. And what I've noticed is that campfire cooks have done particularly well. Everyone is looking for the best food to help them skill up, and there are several campfire cooks on this server, usually more than one on each continent, and they all seem to be doing well. Similarly, the gatherers are doing well supplying those cooks, and even the farmers have been prosperous, generating seeds for a world that similarly got picked over pretty well of wild harvestables by about day 3. Miners crushing rocks always do well, and like the cooks, have had very busy stores. We haven't even unlocked all the skills, so it's a little early to really say what's the best long-term skill, but one skill I've noticed that is struggling might be the new shipwright specialty. On one hand, everyone needs a boat, or 2 or 3, so there's a lot of demand. But on the other hand, it is a limited demand, and even with a server as active as this one, supporting more than 2 or 3 shipwrights for the whole world seems to be plenty, which you can see is a big difference from the cooks and miners. Ocean travel has also been very common, and there are some things that you can do to improve your transportation. Now, this isn't new to version 10, but it has become a game changer with ocean transport. By default, you press W and hold it to move forwards, but you don't have to. What I've done is set a keybind to auto run. I've used the home key because it's not bound to anything else. In version 10 though, this does more than just auto run on the boats. If you're on a large 4K world with significant water, the travel distances can be immense, often taking 5 or 10 minutes to travel to other continents. Now on land, if you were in a truck, you could still use auto run so you didn't have to keep the W key pressed. But you still had to see where you're going, keep the truck from running off the road, take various turns to get where you're going, and generally pay attention to your driving. No texting. The ocean is different though. The wide expanse allows you to set off in the direction you want, press your auto run, and do more than just enjoy the ride. What I often do is use that time to do other things. While in transit, I'll pull up the economy viewer and check prices, or make sure the store I'm heading to is still buying or selling what I'm after. I also pull up the full-sized map by either pressing M or by clicking the store in the economy viewer. It allows me to see where I am, do some general navigation, get a bearing on where the stores are, and even pull up the environmental map to see where a good cluster of oaks might be next to a shore on my travels. All the while continuously moving. So pressing just about any key and pulling up other windows while in auto run is fair game. I also use the time to engage with the community and catch up on chats, see if I've had any DMs, and stay in touch. I can check my food and nutrition balance, and even though my person might be paddling a canoe, I can open my backpack and eat while on the go. No stopping. The auto run at sea has made long ocean voyages go from a chore of necessity to a more productive and enjoyable part of the game. I know, it's a simple and common function, but sometimes these little quality of life actions make a big difference. And with ocean travel being such a big part of the game now, this is a huge tip in my opinion. The start of this version 10 season has been challenging, and I tried to point out several of the rough spots, but it's also been relatively smooth, with everything moving steadily forward economically and lots of player participation. So in many ways, it feels like one of the best. And to celebrate the Dad Speed launch, I even got a new Eco Original soundtrack theme song, courtesy of CodyVidalmusic.com. Cody Vidal Music creates original music for businesses, games, creators, streamers, advertisers, and more. So check out Cody Vidal Music, linked in my description, to get your own original music. And stay tuned to the channel for more eco and other game videos. See you next time.